This morning, it's the new Budweiser ad campaign that Anheuser-Busch hopes will help the company ride out a boycott. It features the nostalgia of an iconic Clydesdale galloping through all-American landscapes with men grabbing a couple of cold ones together.
It's a story bigger than beer.
The ad coming 2 weeks after Bud Light's partnership with transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney.
This month, I celebrated my day 365 of womanhood, and Bud Light sent me possibly the best gift ever, a can with my face on it.
Mulvaney's post drew the ire of some Bud Light enthusiasts, including celebrities like Kid Rock, who played target practice with the beer. What the new ad campaign doesn't offer is an explanation for Bud Light breaking away from its traditional male-oriented advertising in favor of a trans actress with 10 million followers on TikTok. Anheuser-Busch CEO Brendan Whitworth saying, "We never intended to be part of a discussion that divides people. We are in the business of bringing people together over beer." Bud Light's marketing director has said the brand is in decline and needs to evolve and be more inclusive.
Oh, these people can't be serious. When they were talking about doing mock drafts, I'm not sure this is what they had in mind. Evolve and be more inclusive. How are you being more inclusive when you're excluding the core audience consumer that you've catered to for decades? That's like the antithesis of marketing. Hey, we're going to bring in this new group to supplant the existing group, and when we piss off the existing group, we're going to say that we're being more inclusive. That doesn't make any sense. People have been asking me my opinion on the NFL draft for a couple weeks now, and I've been slow to offer my opinion on the draft because I saw what was about to happen. So by now you probably can guess. Do you know who the main sponsor of the NFL draft is? I'll give you one guess. It's Bud Light. I'm sure millions of you will watch the NFL draft. I'm sure tens of thousands of people will attend the NFL draft. They'll be completely oblivious to the point that Bud Light is sponsoring the NFL draft. Many won't even care. They're so fanatic about their team, they don't care what's happening with women's sports. Do you care? Did you even know that Bud Light was sponsoring the NFL draft? Does it matter to you? So you're probably wondering, what the hell am I talking about? If you don't know about Dylan Mulvaney and Bud Light, and that Bud Light is the sponsor of the NFL draft, let me show you a recent article that popped up on the New York Post. This is the article on the New York Post I was referring to. I'm going to go through it. It says, NFL draft sponsored by Bud Light amid Dylan Mulvaney controversy. And it says here, if the Bud Light controversy over an endorsement deal with trans influencer Dylan Mulvaney continues for another 2 weeks, it will seep into the 2023 NFL Draft. It further goes on to say, Bud Light is the presenting sponsor of the NFL Draft. Like I asked you, did you know about that? So let's go further down in this article. There's Dylan Mulvaney drinking a Bud Light if you haven't seen it. And here we go. Last week, Anheuser-Busch Vice President of Marketing Alyssa Heinerscheid defended the campaign with Mulvaney on the Make Yourself at Home podcast. I'm a businesswoman, so she calls herself a woman. I had a really clear job to do when I took over Bud Light, and it was, this brand is in decline. It's been in decline for a long time, and if we don't attract younger drinkers to come and drink this brand, there will be no future for Bud Light. Okay, I understand that. So you took a brand that's in decline, you took its core consumer base, alienated them, and you think you're going to basically supplant that consumer base with a tiny fractional part of society, people who support the trans movement. Are you insane? What are you thinking? You took your brand that you admittedly said is tanking and decided to basically push all in and tank it all the way. That makes absolutely no sense. I bet you trans people make up less than 2% of the entire United States population. Maybe different in the entire world population, but it's a very, very, very small piece. Versus your core audience, your core Bud Light drinker, if that was already in decline, what do you think you just did? So let's continue with this article. I'm going to scroll down, and it says she criticized the brand's fratty marketing. You know, the whole frat boy thing. We have this hangover. I mean, Bud Light had been kind of a brand of fratty, kind of out-of-touch humor, and it was really important that we had another approach. So she didn't like that "What's up" campaign. You remember that? "What's up?" I thought it was funny. Maybe I'm out of touch. Maybe I'm too old. But you replaced that with Dylan Mulvaney. You replaced "What's up" with Dylan Mulvaney. You need brain surgery. So let's continue. Despite this endorsement of the campaign by a high-ranking executive at the company, other anonymous executives have distanced themselves from it. No one at a senior level was aware that this was happening. Okay, so I got to tell you something. Having worked at an advertising agency, a big advertising agency, I got to call BS on that. I have to tell you right now that there is no way a national campaign rolled out, spending tens of millions of dollars, putting Dylan Mulvaney's face on a can, on a merchandising object that's going to be broadcast to millions of people. He's got 10 million Instagram followers or TikTok followers. You made that decision and the senior execs didn't know? Well, you know what? Bullshit. I'm just going to say it. That doesn't happen. Everybody had to buy in. They may not have paid attention. They may have just signed off, but they knew it was going to happen. They knew that this woman, the vice president of marketing, was going to utilize Dylan Mulvaney in a campaign. They probably had no idea who Dylan Mulvaney was. How many of you had any idea who Dylan Mulvaney was before all this stuff happened? So I'm sure they knew. It just blew up in their face. And I'm surprised this woman hasn't been fired yet and perp walked out of the building. But people are starting to rise up. Listen right here to what Megyn Kelly had to say.
If we don't find our voices and start speaking up against this nonsense, we can kiss every woman's space goodbye. We can kiss women's rights goodbye. We can kiss sororities goodbye. We can take off our tops and our underwear and do our yoga in front of perverted men who just want to get off watching us till the cows come home. Stick your daughter in the sorority. Let them at her. Find your voices, ladies, and the men who support us. Otherwise, this is our future. I'm sorry. I'm done. I don't want to deal with this shit at Tri Delt, at Kappa Kappa Gamma, in the women's locker room. You can be supportive of trans people and what they're going through without surrendering to this madness.
I'm not at all saying boycott Bud Light. Nope, I'm not one of those guys. I believe in the free market. If you want to buy the beer, go ahead and buy it. If you don't want to buy it, don't buy it. I don't think anybody should be calling for a boycott. I think you should basically vote with your pocketbooks and wallets. But Bud Light is panicking. They are losing billions. Last time I checked, there was $6.9 billion in value that Bud Light has dropped. Now, it's a proverbial drop in the bucket for a company as big as Anheuser-Busch, but the long-term effects haven't been measured yet. This is just the immediate loss of value. What happens in the long term is up to people like you and me. I believe at this point, we have to make a stand. This is something we cannot let go forward. I think this is a matter that we have to take a stand on. You can't be passive. You just can't let it happen. Women deserve better than being imitated by a man. I think we've reached the moment where you can no longer stay quiet. I'm going to read 3 quotes to you. Just listen to the words of these 3 quotes. First quote, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Evil succeeds if good people don't do something about it." Second quote, "Silence in the face of evil is in itself evil. God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act." We can't sit by and let this aberration continue. And this third quote can be attributed to somebody. It goes to Martin Luther King Jr. Listen to this. "He who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who helps to perpetrate it. He who accepts evil without protesting against it is actually cooperating with it." And that's Martin Luther King Jr. We have to take a stand. The trans movement that's permeating into women's sports and now is sponsoring the NFL draft, that's not something I can just sit idly by and let happen. I have to take a stand. I am a father. I am a grandfather. I have 2 beautiful granddaughters, and I'm not going to allow them to be poisoned by the toxic movement that these people are trying to push upon us. This is not about trans versus straight. This is about good versus evil. You have to understand there's a big difference there. I don't care if somebody is trans. That's their business. Foisting it upon young girls and young women and basically trying to destroy their sports, that is evil. It's evil incarnate. Now, I'm not saying don't watch the draft. Some of you don't care and you think it's no big deal. I just can't watch the NFL draft. I support the players wholeheartedly. I think they deserve everything that's coming to them. They've performed well for 4+ years. They're about to get generational wealth, and I applaud them. But I just can't watch the NFL draft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an NFL draft live show where you can come on and talk to me, and we can have a little bit of fun talking about the picks. And I don't have to watch the show. I can catch a stream online in terms of the feed of who's getting drafted. But the NFL draft, if you're going to put Dylan Mulvaney out as your spokesperson and then you're going to sponsor the NFL draft, you can have that. So the discussion is boiling up on Twitter. People are starting to get really upset about this Dylan Mulvaney crap with Bud Light. And they didn't even know that Bud Light was sponsoring the NFL draft. Now they do. And I don't know what's going to happen. Most of you probably won't care, but I'm sure there's a small subsection of you who are with me on this. Enough, enough, enough. I cannot sit idly by and watch evil run amok. I can't sit idly by and participate in your insanity. Speaking to Dylan Mulvaney and others like him, whatever. I'm not going to do it. A man is a man, a woman is a woman, and there's nothing you can do about that. There is nothing you can say. There's no amount of makeup. There's not a dress big enough. There's not a sports bra big enough. There is nothing that is going to change the most basic fundamental fact of biology. And I'm not going to participate in it. That's up to you, whether you are or not. I know a lot of people are afraid to speak out about it. God, I've been flamed enough by the QAnon people to know I'm not worried about people ganging up and saying things about me. That is this important. As Martin Luther King said, I can't participate in this evil. I can't sit back and just let it happen, because that means I'm endorsing it. That means I'm actually help perpetrate that lie on people, and I just can't do it. Let me know what you think. You may have a different opinion. As that quote said, God doesn't find me guiltless if I sit back and just let it happen. Talk to you soon. Let me know what you think.
If we don't find our voices and start speaking up against this nonsense, we can kiss every woman's space goodbye. We can kiss women's rights goodbye. We can kiss sororities goodbye. We can take off our tops and our underwear and do our yoga in front of perverted men who just want to get off watching us till the cows come home. Stick your daughter in the sorority. Let them at her. Find your voices, ladies, and the men who support us. Otherwise, this is our future. I'm sorry. I'm done. I don't want to deal with this shit at Tri-Delt, at Kappa Kappa Gamma, in the women's locker room. You can be supportive of trans people and what they're going through without surrendering to this madness.